Some of you may have seen National Treasure movies where Nicolas Cage and team break some unnecessary cryptic codes, fight with bad boys with machine guns, and finally uncover treasures worth millions hidden by Freemasons or founding fathers. In today's episode, we are going to uncover one such treasure along with some believe it or not facts without having to actually break any codes or firing guns. Welcome to Masala History by Siva, and join me in this treasure hunt that promises at least 22 billion US dollars and some more. Before we proceed, however, I would like to give a huge shout out to a wonderful person, one of our listeners who pointed out a documentary that ultimately nudged me to make this episode. While growing up, her favorite quote about her not so favorite subjects used to be History, Geography, Bewafa, Raat ko padho, din mein safa. And yet, she is one of my regulars and often the first listeners. Thank you very much, Mrs. Supriya ma'am. This one is for you. And with that introduction, let's dive in. We are traveling to the southern tip of the Indian subcontinent to God's own country, Kerala. The Padamanabha temple, which is in modern-day Trivandrum, is one of the oldest Hindu temples and has been referred in ancient texts several times in the Sangam literature in the 5th century BCE. It was referred as a golden temple and has always been known for its richness and walls of gold. It's one of the 108 Divya Desams of Vaishnavism. In the Sanctum Sanctorum or the Garbhagriha, Lord Vishnu is seen in his reclining yogic pose lying on top of Adisesha the serpent. He is seen as the be-all and end-all of the powerful Trinity, with his one hand on Shiva and Brahma on the other, and the goddesses of wealth and education all around him. It is believed that anyone who prostrated in front of the god here surrenders all their worldly belonging to the god himself. The Padamanabha temple was supported quite well by pretty much all South Indian Hindu kings, regardless of the fact that they were fighting off each other all the time. The Cheras, Pandyas, Pallavas, Cholas, and the Travancore Royal family were the most generous donors. There were also gifts and donations to the temple from the kings and traders from Mesopotamia, Jerusalem, Greek and Roman empires as well. Strangely, in spite of onslaughts by the North Indian sultans, especially targeting the South Indian temples for gold and loot, the Padamanabha temple survived pretty much intact without any major thefts. This will be a good time to quickly understand who administers this temple. The Travancore Royal family have been historically the protectors of the temple. The Kingdom of Travancore, or Thiruvithamcode as it's referred in Malayalam, or Thiruvidhangoor in Tamil, has a 1,000-year history. The Cheras ruled this area until their dynasty crumbled in the 12th century. After that, it was ruled by multiple smaller kings until the early 18th century when King Marthanda Varma, with an iron hand, united them all and established the Kingdom of Travancore again. Marthanda Varma is one of those South Indian rulers who is not very well celebrated in Indian histories. In fact, the Kingdom of Travancore was the first kingdom to defeat a modern-day European colonial power at war, the Dutch, in the Battle of Colachel in 1741, a full 150 years before the First War of Indian Independence in 1857. A lesser-known fact is that the Dutch captain, de Lannoy, who defected to Travancore after being captured, became its admiral, was also an ancestor of the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Anyway, coming back to the story, Marthanda Varma reconstructed the Padamanabha temple and reconstituted the dues collection to bring it back to its glory. On January 3rd, 1750, King Marthanda Varma prostrated in front of Swami Padamanabha of the temple, thereby offering his entire kingdom to the Lord. This act was called Tripadi Danam, and with this, Travancore became God's own country. From then to this day, The Travancore family calls themselves as Padamanabha Dasas and rule on behalf of the Lord and administer the temple as his loyal servants. Even after the 1947 Indian independence, 1949 dissolution of the Kingdom of Travancore, 1972 abolishment of the titles of Maharajas in India, the 1991 death of the last recognized titular ruler of the Travancore family, the royal family continued to own the administration of this temple. However, in 2009, things changed. Based on a mismanagement and swindling of treasures complaint raised by an ex-IPS officer, the Kerala High Court removed the royal family's power in running the temple, citing that their rights to administer the temple lapsed with the death of the last recognized ruler in 1991. The court also appointed a committee and amicus curiae to inventory the treasures and report back. On June 27, 2011, the open secret treasure chests were actually opened. Everyone was aware of the presence of 6 vaults on the western side of the Lord's seat labelled A to F. However, the auditors found 2 more subterranean vaults labeling them G and H. Vaults C, D, E and F had temple items that were used for regular service and opened at least 8 times a year, so no surprises there. The special ones were actually A and B. Vault A alone had 3,000 tons of gold, coins, sacks of diamond and jewelry. Some of the items recovered were pure golden idol of the Lord with a pure golden throne, a 36 kilogram golden veil, gold in the form of pots and jars, diamond-studded crowns, gold coins from civilizations all around the world, including Roman, French, Dutch, Venetian, as well as the Mughals. Some of the artifacts in the walls apparently date back to 200 BC. All in all, about 100,000 or 1 lakh objects were inventoried. Most of these items were not just temple donations or tax monies, but also wealth of several kings who primarily ruled the Malabar coast, who had hidden their treasure when they were battling Tipu Sultan. There are over 3,000 surviving bundle of Kadjan leaves in Malayalam and Tamil, each bundle having 100,000 leaves, which is a ledger of donations made exclusively to this temple over this entire millennia. Most of these ledgers are yet to be studied, and they could throw a lot of light on the story of the treasure, hopefully in the next few years. Vaults G and H are forgotten vaults. They haven't been open for 3 centuries. Vault B, however, is a totally different story. It was last opened in the year 1885. In 2014, there was an attempt to open it again. 2 of the doors opened to a third one that had a cobra inscription on its door. Multiple attempts to open the third door have actually failed, and finally now the Supreme Court has left it to the current administration to decide if they really want to open the vault. Legends that would put Chandramukhi's stories to shame state that there are serpents guarding the vault that store the royal treasures, and the vault also houses the serpent chief that serves the Lord. For now, all we can do is to wait and imagine what could be inside that unopenable vault B. All in all, with all these 6 plus 2 vaults put together, the Travancore Padamanabha Royal Temple holds roughly about $22 billion worth of treasure, mostly in form of gold. A couple of months back, in July 2020, the Supreme Court of India overruled the 2011 decision of the Kerala High Court and restored the descendants of the royal family of Travancore as the lead administrators of the temple. Stay back with me to learn some less known but extremely interesting facts related to this story. As I said earlier, the King of Travancore is a Dasa, a Padamanabha Dasa, servant or regent of the Lord Padamanabha. Every day, he has to visit the temple and spend few minutes alone with the Lord, and a single day miss would require him to pay a fine of rupees 166.35 paisa. This tradition continues even today. On the other hand, especially in the early 1800s, This Travancore royalty was notorious for some insane tax practices that ultimately continued to contribute to the treasures of this temple. Some of the taxes were keep your head tax. Basically, anybody who wanted to keep their head needs to pay a tax, which is practically everyone who wanted to live. Another cruel tax was a breast tax aimed specifically at low caste women. They had to pay a tax based on the size of their breast. This cruel tax was abolished only after a woman named Nangeli cut her breasts off in protest and died. Regardless of how the money ended up in the temple, the Padamanabha Swami temple in Travancore today is one of the richest temples in the entire world. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Please keep the feedback and comments coming. Stay safe, and I will talk soon with yet another interesting Masala history. Bye-bye.